on last night's episode of Raw, we got our first promo from Retribution. So it's at the end of the second of two completely needless and irrelevant handicap matches in the women's tag team title picture. Nia Jax is just about to get pinned by Liv Morgan, I think, but it doesn't really matter when all the lights start to cut out. Retribution are so badass, they've given their logo in a really high-res PNG form to the production truck so it can replace the Thunderdome fans on the screens.
Yeah, so it's cool, man. It's chaotic. That's what that is. Sure, yeah. I mean, maybe you could make the argument that they're hacking into the WWE mainframe, but they've still made a logo. I don't know. Doesn't really sound very chaotic to me, but hey-ho, it's what it is.
They've somehow got in the production truck. I'm sure it all will make sense eventually and that there's no logic holes here.
No.
And then it cuts to like an area backstage, presumably near the production truck or some electrical cables, which has allowed them to do this. And there's a bunch of masked figures. It's very darkly lit. You can just sort of make out the outlines of people of various heights. And they do a promo let's review the promo and then we can talk about who's potentially been revealed as the voices behind it. They do a promo in that I did not like this episode of Raw, by the way. I'm gonna put that out there. I thought this was a terrible episode of Raw. Love the Mysterio stuff, love the Drew and Randy stuff, but it's a 3-hour show.
Yeah,
there's a lot of crap here, and this really was like one of the biggest pieces. This Retribution faction, that hasn't been good. This hasn't been a good storyline. It's not a threatening invading force. But, you know, when you start to do the first promo, there's a chance to kind of get some interest. It's a new start almost. You can finally give some character, finally give some motivation behind the dark, shady figures. And their first outing, their first impression was to cut a generic, mysterious, crappy WWE dialogue promo. A female distorted voice says, "This Thunderdome is a facade. Behind this mountain of screens is the same foundation, the same WWE as before, who discarded and disowned us, leaving us to survive in an unfair world."
Yeah. As someone that really knows how to cut good promos, I'd say that this was... Okay, I'm going to say the things that I liked about it first. I liked how Dijak sounded.
Well, spoilers, man.
Spoilers, which we're going to talk about.
Voices.
The male person who spoke, probably Dijak, let's be real, when he spoke, I thought that the voice alteration on him sounded cool. The stuff I didn't like was everything else. The presentation wasn't great. The words were very generic. People don't really talk like that. I think the concept of the promo, I think, is fine. If you want them to be an exiled group of people that want to seek vengeance against WWE for whatever reason, that's a fine concept for a promo, but you need them to actually say stuff that matters rather than just saying the generic WWE big words for things. We were discarded and stuff like that. No one says that. Just say that you were, shunned. We want payback. We want vengeance. Those are things that people actually say rather than whatever it was that I genuinely can't even remember the words that you just said to me because they're meaningless. They're over the top hyperbolic statements. They're not how people talk, so you don't relate to it in any way.
Yeah, exactly. I'm reading a lot of comic books at the moment. And if this is overly stylized, there's nothing wrong with it being an over-the-top supervillain kind of speech. There's no, we're not saying, it's not realistic enough because it's pro wrestling. It's very far from realism, this angle. But you can have really engaging, wacky comic book style supervillains. And this was nowhere close to that. It was just everyone spoke the same. So there were two voices. There was that female voice there and the larger figure who, Pete really liked the voice of, threatened that their darkness will seep into the pores of superstars and the so-called universe. And I was just like, as soon as you said, I mean, I was gone already. I was not liking this promo already. And then you say superstars and WWE Universe. I know they said so-called universe. I guess that's a little bit better than just straight up. You might as well have said, and buy the network, $9.99. You'll never see it coming. Just bust out a few meaningless catchphrases or
Gold
taglines.
Rush.
Yeah. Is that what Night of Champions is?
Yeah, Clash of Champions Gold Rush is the official title for it. Yeah, it's terrible.
So that's their kind of mission statement. So the two voices, someone on Reddit took that audio, pitched it down, and figured out that it seems to be the voices of Mercedes Martinez, very talented wrestler who's been around for ages on the indie scene. She was in AEW for a hot second, and then she was signed by WWE last year, has done some stuff in NXT. And the guys one was Dominik Dijakovic, which I said that name right.
I think it's Dijakovic.
Dijakovic.
I don't think that sounds right to me anyway, but whatever. That seems to line up with what people have been saying before as to who could potentially be in it, with people, when they appeared on Raw and people were like, oh, these seem like different people than who originally were in Retribution. Who's that really tall man? And people seem to point out who the potential members could be. Dijakovic's been heavily rumored. He's blacked out his Twitter for months and been posting cryptic messages and things like that. Definitely seems like a front runner. So yeah, this definitely seems like this was almost certainly him that cut this promo, which Dijak's really good. He's really, really good. And I'm excited for him to be on the main roster because I think he is someone who could genuinely captivate the casual audience with his presence, his height, his promo style when he's not in Retribution could be really, really good. I just don't want him to be part of Retribution when he's on the main roster because it's really kind of dampening him a little bit, and he might need a bit of maybe once this whole Retribution thing is done, he might need a rebrand and a refresh, which is already he's only just started in a new group and we're already talking about rebranding him. I think that kind of says it all, that it's a bit of a failed project right now.
Yeah. So as for the other identities, the reports have been for ages, the people who have been carrying out the acts aren't necessarily the people who are in the faction. So people have identified Mia Yim at points by her hair. That doesn't mean she'll be in the eventual revealed lineup. We don't know who the others are, but if they're getting people to cut promos, you've got to think Martinez, Dijakovic are definitely in there. As for their motivation, So the motive, that going by their words, it seems like the whole point, well, initially, WWE.com got this information from somewhere. Number one, that they're called Retribution. Number two, that their only cause seems to be to create chaos. This was their first time of saying, here's what we're here for. This is the reason we're doing this stuff. Which should have happened ages ago because it's been just 6 weeks of nonsense. And it seems like they're saying WWE cast them aside. So now they're getting their revenge on WWE, presumably for some failed promises. That to me says, well, it's the bunch of people who got released in mid-April. If it is Dijakovic and Martinez and other NXT call-ups, how does that motivation work?
I don't know. The thing is, I feel like what they're trying to do is, in classic WWE fashion, they've not thought about the end goal. And what they've done is, we're going to get people talking and we're going to make them think that it's the people that got released in April. But it won't be. It's going to be these other guys. But then they haven't thought about why the other people would actually have that motivation. I think they've just thought, we're going to get people talking as if these people are coming back. Gets them clicks and talks about the product or whatever, but without actual follow through with the new group. That would be my hypothesis anyway.
I'll go one better.
I
don't think they even thought of that.
Okay.
I think they've got a document in Google Docs somewhere, or given that it's WWE, Microsoft Vista, and they just have a few copy and paste promos for heels. And they went through and they thought, that one, we haven't used it for a while. Copy and paste it out, put it in the Raw script, and there you go. There was no thought about what the future motivation is. There was no thought about how it might tie in and insinuate that it could be a released bunch of people from earlier, which it definitely isn't. There's no way they'll touch any storyline like that with a barge pole. Although Drake Maverick's storyline was used down in NXT, and I don't think it relates to anything that's happened previously.
Yeah, I just think, much like their whole run so far, it's probably going to be a bit disappointing.